Okay. And you can see my screen.
Yes.
Yes, we can.
Yeah. Okay. That's perfect. Okay. Last time, and you can hear me perfectly, or at least you can hear me.
Yes, we can hear you well.
Okay, that's perfect. Thank you very much. So last time we started to discuss the basics of design thinking, and we didn't talk about why we are talking about design thinking at all. And I think you all been part of a discussion that if I'm going to mute you all because I can hear an echo, and I think it's better if I mute all of you. You can of course unmute yourself, but this way there is not going to be any echo. So going back to the question, why are we talking about design thinking? What is the big deal about design thinking? We've been very well before without this methodology. Why is the big hype now? And we are talking about design thinking because it is part of innovation. It is part of how innovative things can come out. You've probably heard of inside out and outside in thinking. And most of the time, companies start from inside out when they are trying to solve a problem. This is especially very, very true to banks because banking is a traditional business. And most bankers usually like to think that that whatever they know, whatever they think they know is the best. They know the process is the best. They know how it should be done. They know how finances should be handled. So everything that is coming out from them is very good. But the thing is that people and society is evolving everywhere, and end users and the customers of the banks and our customers also realize that that they have more to that, more say to that, because they feel that not that they feel, but they get in contact with a lot of applications, a lot of companies that are trying to find ways how they can connect to their customers. By that, what I mean is that they are outside-in thinkers, meaning that they prioritize over their structure, their knowledge, and they think that the customer know what's best for them. So innovation and good innovation, customer-centric innovation, is coming from outside-in thinking. And one of the way how this outside-in thinking can be used is by design thinking. Probably you all heard of lean startups. And this round thing, the great thing that you can see here is how the lean startup world is thinking that they have to build, measure, and learn, and have to do this around and around and repeatedly to make a product that is a perfect market fit. And by joining design thinking and lean UX, we can cover the whole space, because design thinking covers the problem space. You remember the design thinking steps: it's emphasize, define, ideate, prototype, and then test. And by joining design thinking and the problem space to the solution space, with by solution space, the solution comes from lean startup methodology. We cover all the 5 steps, and we ensure that the best product, the best market fit product comes out of the process. Probably you're familiar with this. Have you seen this before? Or something similar?
Yes.
Yes. Where have you seen it?
It looks very similar to the 90-day sprint challenge that we are sharing with our clients.
Yes, exactly. And do you know why it is similar?
Perhaps from the process, so starting with the design thinking, the idea of achieving it in a short period of time, working with a small challenge, defining the criteria, and in terms of ideating, sort of looking at different approaches to refine the process, so perhaps constant brainstorming to iterate on the idea, and then testing it to see whether it works, and perhaps with some more iterations behind it. I'd say that's part of that.
Okay, how this thing came originally is there are a lot of versions of this chart, this picture. But basically, yes, you're right. The whole idea behind this picture is to bring out the good things from all of these new methodologies, these new hyped words that are going around in development, in software development, and in product development. And these hyped words are, one of them is design thinking, one of them is lean startup, and one of them is agile. Of course, you all know agile because we as a company are trying to go and be more agile in our development work. Am I correct in that? Those of you who are coming from the development space, can you say that this is true?
Yes, that's true.
Okay. Okay. Then, if we are moving from the back to the beginning of the process, you can see this lean startup methodology. What the lean startup methodology is really about making sure, this is what the lean the startups are basically doing, and they are very good at, is iterating very fast and trying out and experimenting and trying to find the best market fit for the product. And what we are putting in front of this is the design thinking, because we want to make sure that whatever is coming out of that lean startup iterative work is something that is good for the user. And that is what design thinking is putting to this whole process. The knowledge that what we are going to iterate on is something good for the user, it's something good for the bank's customer, it's something good for our customer, it's something good for the very end user, for those people who we are actually designing something for. So this is why we are talking about design thinking, and this is what the place of design thinking is in the innovation process. Do you have any questions so far?
No.
Is there anything you would like to add to this? Do you have any feelings that this might not work? Do you have any feelings that it's better the way we've did before? Do you see anything else that works better than this?
So Susana, this is Rajesh. So one thing which I would like to add is that, I mean, not really the parallel process where, we normally, recommend actually the dual tracking development where, the continuous discovery and continuous delivery is in parallel, and where, we leverage design thinking and lean setup for, the continuous discovery work actually.
Could you repeat that again, because there's a lot of background noise.
Yeah, so, is it audible now, Susanna?
Yes.
Okay, so what I said is that actually, even though in the diagram, we are seeing that, the design thinking, lean, startup, and agile. My point is that, this is not really a sequential activity, in reality, in practical life. This is a dual track development where, the discovery and, the delivery will go hand in hand. So the same product team, they spend some time, they work on both, the discovery part and, the delivery part. Means they, leverage the design thinking, lean startup, and, the agile at the same time.
Yes. Okay. Now I understand you perfectly. Okay. So what you're saying is that this is not incremental. This is not something that we are doing design thinking in the beginning and then we just don't do it anymore. And it's not sequential. Yes, you're right. Actually, we are doing design thinking is not really a thinking. It's doing. It's a mindset. It's not a one-time thing, as probably you remember from last time. It is not something that you do just only once, but it's really how you think, how you use the knowledge that that you have during the processes, during the development processes. And yes. During a development of a product that is a well-established product, usually design thinking is not really something that is happening before the actual development, but it's really happening together with the development team, together with the business analyst, together with the business during finding out during the specification phase. Yes, you're right. At the same time, when we are talking about innovation, we are talking about something that is not an established product. We are talking about something that is new. And that's why we emphasize that we have to start with the design thinking part to make sure that we understand the area, the problem area, the customer's problem that we would like to solve. Because without that, we will not be sure that we are solving the right problem. So that's why, yes, during everyday work, during the established product development process, this design thinking is really important of our iterations, of our everyday life. But when we are talking about innovation, it needs to be separated in a sense to make sure that during the iterative work, during the development phase, during the lean startup phase, we are tackling the problem that needs to be tackled. And design thinking is a process that makes sure that we find the problem that we need to tackle.
Okay.
Okay? Okay, then let's continue. If you don't have any more questions, just a small recap so you can think of the questions you have again. So what we talked about is a 5-step process. And if you remember, we also had a discussion that there are a lot of ways how this can be visualized. We are going to go through these 5 steps, but I'm going to show you some of the visualization, how the design thinking is visualized by others. For example, if you remember, we talked about the double diamond. This is one way of showing these 5 steps, the emphasize, define, ideate, prototype, and test steps in a double diamond. You see these diamonds interacting, and you can also see from another visualization, which is coming from IDEO, that there is this diverging and then a converging phase, and then we diverge again and converge again. And this is this rhythmicality, this rhythm is going through all the phases. It doesn't matter what methodology, what visualization, and what steps there are actually. See here, we have discover, define, develop, and deliver instead of the emphasize, define, ideate, prototype. That, but basically they are all the same. It is just a different way how to cut the steps. This is IBM's way how to cut the steps. You can see the infinite loop. They call their design thinking methodology the loop. And probably this is why, because they think of going back to the same issue where they focus on the customer, and then from which they diverse and try to find the solutions. This process visualization, what I'm just showing you, is one of Google Ventures, and Google Ventures has come up with a process called design sprint. It's a 5-day sprint, and what they do is on the very first day they do the understanding part, they do the empathizing part, and then and also some decision is made, some defining, some decision, and then they do the sketching, which is, you can see from the diamonds, it's a divergent phase. So this is when they ideate, and then there is a decision. They make a decision based on the sketches, and then again they diverge with the prototyping phase, and then during testing, what we call validation, they again converge to one solution. This same process is mapped out to days. As I said, there are 5 days. On the very first day, they map the processes. On the second day, they do sketching. Then, as I said, deciding, prototyping, and testing. These are exactly the same 5 steps that we are going to go through. What is special about it is that it is squeezed into just 5 days. While, for example, IDEO's methodology or design thinking in general can take as long as years or even more than 1 year. Because a bigger, for example, social related issues, saving water or saving the environment takes a bit more. These are also areas that can be solved with design thinking. So this is about the process. And we also talked about some things that are common in all of these processes. And one of the things is the collaboration, if you remember. One of the things is to be human-centered, and this is one of the most important parts. Then we need to prototype early, and we need to iterate. And before going to the next part of this session, do you have any questions about what we talked last time? Okay, let's go forward. What is design thinking then? As again, a recap, design thinking is a human-centered approach to problem solving and innovation that draws from the designer's toolkit to integrate the needs of people, possibilities of technology, and requirements of the business success. Most of the time, actually not most of the time, but all of the time, we start with the human side, wanting to find what is desirable, and then go to the business side and see if it's viable for the business, and then if it's feasible from the technology perspective. And let's look at it how we do it. So the empathize, I always have problems with this empathize word. I don't like that English word, actually. I love what is happening during that phase, but I have trouble saying that. You know, it is a very strange thing that during development, this is not something that we do normally. Because if you think about your everyday life, think about when you build a house or you invite your friends to dinner, you start out by thinking what foods they would like, who is allergic to what. And basically, when you are preparing your dinner for your friends, you start out with those who you are inviting. You are starting out with empathizing. So empathy is really a foundation of our everyday life. It is really a shame that we have to take special care to bring that into to the development processes. During this phase, we do exactly what we do when we would be taking care of a dinner. We observe the users in their behavior, in their context of their life. We interact with interviews and then experience the experiences that they experience. So, putting it to the dinner part, when we are having dinner with our friends, not when we invited them, but for example, when they invited us, we look at what they cook for themselves. We look at what they eat when we go out to have dinner. If there is somebody who we don't know that much about, we just make a call and ask them if you're a vegetarian or not, if you're allergic to something or you're not, because this is how we want to make sure that we are good hosts. So we need to understand who we are bringing in, who we are cooking for. So this is exactly what we are doing this phase, because you're not your user. You're not only cooking for yourself, you're not only developing something for yourself, but you are developing for a big user base. And then we need to know who those people are who we are designing for. We need to know the problems they are facing, because those problems are rarely our own. They are those of the particular users. And in order to design for these users, we must build empathy for who they are and what is important to them. We need to watch them, what they do when they are interacting with their environment, because that gives us clue what they think and feel. And it also helps us to learn what they really need. And to learn from those insights, and actually to grab those insights, is really harder than you might think, because usually our minds automatically filter out lots of information in ways we aren't even aware of, and we need to learn how to see with a fresh set of eyes to be very good in empathy. Okay, where do we look for those inspirations? Where do we look for those insights that we need to be able to build the better product? Of course, people, experts. We need to go and see how it feels. We need to be in the situation that these people are in, actually. And we might also need to take a look at analogous inspirations, meaning that, for example, one time when IDEA was designing for an emergency ward, you know, in hospitals where they take care of the emergency issues, issues. For what they did is they went to see how you know about Formula One pilots and how they operate, how they change their tires during the race. They went and see how those teams operate, because even though it is not an emergency, they are still working under extreme time pressure. So by finding some analogy between how they work and how the emergency room teams are working, they can find better ways to improve the processes of their task, the emergency room operations. It is very important that during these visits, during these interviews, during these immersions, you not only listen to what the people are saying, but also see what they are doing and ask for how they feel and what they think. This is not very easy because people usually don't want to share with you how they think and how they feel, but there are some techniques how you can do that.
Susanna, can I ask you more of a philosophical question from my side? How would you answer a question that for a breakthrough innovation, you actually cannot rely on the customer or on existing practices or on observing what is happening or even on empathy, right? Let's take an example of an iPhone, which is everyone's favorite example, not necessarily mine, and say that there are two types of innovation here, right? One is the fact that it's made of glass and then you need to swipe left and right, and that's not something that people were doing in the past. And the second is that you need to download the apps, right? So these are probably two examples where iPhone was leading. So to that end, a lot of people would have said that if you will ask people whether they would be using a phone like this, then in majority of the cases, and I think it's a real case, that they would have said, no, this is not how they are actually behaving in their natural environment, right?
Yes, yes. Thank you very much for the question, because this is a very important thing. That it is never enough to ask what they would like to do. What would they be using this and that? Because actually there are two parts of your question. One is this, that you have to go deeper to their motivation. You started with, your question was about iPhone, but I don't know if you know that before iPhone, of course you know, before iPhone there was iPad. And basically that was even more revolutionary to how we listen to music compared to the Sony Discman and Walkman, if you remember that, because a phone is the iPhone came after the iPad when iPad already revolutionized how people were thinking about one device. And if you remember the iPod, do you remember that they had this wheel? You know how you could go to the next. They didn't have buttons, but rather they had the wheel. It didn't have a touch pad or a touch. You know, the whole glass area was not touchable. But they had the downward part of the device was a kind of like a circle which you could roll. Do you remember that?
Yeah,
and
Nokia
then,
had that, right?
I'm sorry, what did you say?
No, Nokia had exactly this kind of phones.
No, it was not the phone. It is the iPod, the music. Listen, you remember that?
Yeah, it was a copy of the Nokia design in that sense, right? So even though it was round, but you were kind of swipe it to the left and right. Actually, the IBM design for the mouse that is built in the keyboard, it's the same principle. It's a joystick.
Yes. Yeah, there was this joystick. Yes, yes. But actually, that stick, that
jog wheel.
Yeah, that little thing between. Yeah, between the letters G, H, and B, I think that's where they put it. Yes, yeah, it was IBM, and then a lot of computers took advantage of that, and then came the touchpad which made it possible to even more interaction with the computer. But going back to the phone, iPhone was before iPhone. Apple had another invention, and that was about reinventing how we listen to music. And iPhone, how I see iPhone is really a sequence of that, because that's when they tried out how are we handling the touchpad? Well, it's not really the touchpad, but the screen. Are we able to manipulate things on the screen? And that's and after they make sure that we can handle that, and we are fine with it, that's when actually the phone, the telephone functionality was included in that in this device. But yes, you're right, it's not enough to say that I know how this computer business is, because then I will not be able to answer those questions, those underlying feelings and thinkings that my user base has. And yes, this is very, very important about innovation, that when we are talking about innovating with our clients, it is not enough to listen to what their problem is. We have to make the step, we have to make the next step, and we have to go and know what their customer is thinking about the bank's problem. Do you see, it is very difficult, because we don't only have to take care of our clients, but we have to take care of the clients of their clients. And to come up with a solution that is going to be a solution that helps a bank to succeed is a solution that will help the bank's user to succeed in their problem. It is not really the bank's problem that we have to solve. It is the bank's user's problem, the bank's customer's problem that we have to solve. And that's how we will enable the bank to be successful. Do you agree on that? Okay, I'm not sure that you're agreeing or not, or it's just the background noise that's coming in.
I think all makes sense, right?
Okay.
The real question here is that in some cases you actually don't have a user in the picture, right? So you are disintermediated, or the user is actually forced to do stuff that they're not comfortable.
Bacteria, it's really hard to hear you. I don't know whether your mic's quite far away from you.
No? Is it any better now?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So what I'm saying is that the real question here is that in some cases you either have a user who is not in the picture anymore in the new process, right? You can argue that whether you can go and talk to a new stakeholder, but in that case, it's less of a user-centric design. And then the second point that I want to say is that, well, realistically, in some cases, you're actually forcing users to do stuff that they're not comfortable with, right? So, for example, let's say you are listing an item on eBay or on Amazon, right? And that's not what somebody would like to do. Or you are going to the supermarket and actually, instead of somebody else serving you, actually it's a self-service, and this is not something that you'd like to do, right? So if you are introducing design center thinking, it almost sounds like it's not really applicable to every single situation, and in some cases it might be myopic to use, because then the breakthrough innovation cannot really happen. Do you agree with this, Zhanna?
Okay. Okay, I would say that I agree with you that not all problems can be solved with human-centered design or design thinking. Yes, I do agree with you, because some problems are not meant to be solved by this methodology. On the other hand, I would argue that if I am a company no matter what kind of company. But I am a company who has customers or who has users, then those problems or those issues that are related to the customers, in that case, I think human-centered design in one way or the other has to be taken care of or have to be involved. Let's say, let's have, again, a banking problem, a bank-related issue. Most of our products, what Finastra is producing, is really not for retail customers. They are not really for the end user, but for tellers, for expert users. Let's call them that. And you could argue that these expert users, you know, the tellers, the banking salespeople, the people who are taking care of the customers of the banks, they know the processes. When we are designing for them, when we are providing functionalities to them, we don't need to ask them because they are not the primary source of information for their functionality. On the other hand, those people are still people. And those people, even though they are using, for example, a functionality on a computer, on our software, they do use other stuff as well. They do know how to search on Google. And if our search, let's just say our search functionality is working differently, then they will have difficulty understanding how our search functionality operates. Just let's stick with a very easy functionality of search, because that's always necessary to have some kind of search. For example, how we search for a customer, how we search for a company in a corporate banking environment. So, because those users, those expert users, are mainly people and they have an outside life, you know, they know how others in the universe, how other programs outside of our universe is working. So that's one point. The second point is that if we take care of how they are thinking, how they are feeling when they are using our products, then we can shorten their training period. We can keep retention, you know, that they don't get fired because they are not productive enough. And for the bank, because they can work faster, they can for the bank we can increase the potential to do more business. So this is a twofold issue. Yes, I do agree that some of the things might not need to be tackled with human-centered design, but those issues that have human on the other end do have to be taken care of in one way or the other through design thinking. Would you agree to that?
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Okay, so going back to, before going back to that, does anybody else have a question? Because this was a very interesting discussion. Does any of you also have something that came to your mind during these points? Okay. Then let's go forward. So, so just to summarize, when we are talking and when we are looking at the people who we are designing for, whatever solution that might be, that can be a virtual reality solution, that can be a machine learning solution, any kind of technological solution. We do have to take care of the user who this solution is for. We have to know what his problem is, because that is the only way how we can make sure that the solution that we are providing, no matter how high tech it is an answer, it is a solution for his problem. Otherwise, it is not going to be used. Probably, if I would ask all of you, you would say that a personal finance manager app. And we are 11 in the call. Probably we would name 11 different applications. And probably, if I'm not mistaken, most of you would not be completely satisfied with that solution if you are using one at all. Some of you might be using a Google Sheet or another spreadsheet type document. Some of you might be using an application, but there would probably be some way why you are not satisfied. And if I would want to develop a personal finance manager application, then I would need to be asking all of you. And I would need to be asking, well, of course I cannot ask all of the users, but some specific users, groups, what their problem is. And if I don't know what your problem is, I definitely won't be able to answer with my app to that problem. So this is why we need to see when we are talking with people what they say, how they do it, how they think, and how they feel. Okay, why is it not enough to know what they say? Why isn't it enough to just go and ask them, what do you do? Because most of the time, people don't quite remember what they do. I had this one issue when I was interviewing for it was about it was a software that would make the personal assistant's life a bit more easier with handling incoming mail and outgoing mail and all those things, kind of like a document management system. And when we ask these some of the potential users, we asked them, well, when you go into the office, what do you do? And they said, well, I go to the office, I sit down, I open the emails and open the regular mails, the snail mails. I put a number to it and then file it in the folder. And then when we asked the same user to show what they are doing, what happened is that, when we went by their side and see how they start their day, well, what came out of it is that the first thing that they do is, it is not that they go to their desk. The first thing they do is they go to the coffee room and they make a coffee. And they make a coffee for their boss. And then they pick up the mail, which is not actually on their desk, but somewhere else. They pick up that mail, and then they go to the copy room because they have to make copies of that same. Okay, I'm sorry. There is this technical thing. They have to make copies of those incoming snail mails to file in the right folder. So basically, they said that they sit down at that table, but in reality, they are juggling with a coffee, a pack of mails, and And afterwards, that's when they just sit down to their desk. So it's not enough to know. It's not enough to know what they are saying. We also have to know what they are doing. We have to check. We have to check that what they are saying is actually true. So how do you do that? There are some things that you have to keep in mind, because as I mentioned before, it is very easy to be sidetracked. It is very easy for our mind to say that, hey, I know this, I have been through this, so you just turn your mind off and you don't listen to the whole story. But you do have to cast aside your biases, because even though it seemed familiar, there might be some issue there that you didn't experience before. Then look for stories. It is not enough to say, to ask, okay, tell me how you did it. Look for the stories. Look for what is behind their behavior. Again, do versus say. And one very fun thing is to watch for workarounds. What I mean by workarounds is probably you had experienced this many times, that when you're using an app, you know how to cut corners. The app is asking you to do this. For example, okay, this is happening to me every day. I use iPhone, and I am one of those people, even though I'm a designer, I'm one of those people who is not using the very last operating system. So actually, I don't have iOS 11 on my iPhone. But of course, iPhone is always trying to nag me to download the new version. And when, I don't know if you have iPhones, if you do, you know that there are two options you can select when the phone is nagging you, and one is later, the other one is something else. And I always hit later with the thought that, okay, if I hit later, I will not be asked again. But so this is how I can work around downloading something that the phone wants me to do, wants me to download. So look for these workarounds, because there are a lot of these little corner cutting. One time I was talking with banking tellers, and one of the tasks was for them to find a customer. And this was this lady, and she said that, okay, I'm finding this customer, and okay, I go to another. They were supposed to use one system. Let's call it System A. And she said that, okay, I see that for System A, I need the name of the customer, but I will not use System A for finding their customer because it's very slow. But there is this System B, actually that was a card system. There is this System B, and the search functionality works much faster and much better because I can see my previous customers, and because this lady was taking care of special customers, it was not many changes in the names, so it was much easier for her to go through, in a previous search list than typing in details, name, mother's name, birth date, and those kind of things to find the right customer ID. So these are the workarounds that you have to look for, because they tell you that something is not working in a way how it should for the customer. And of course, just pretend you're kids when you're talking with when you're finding out what the user's needs are. I don't know if you have a chance to see how kids interact with the world, when they just don't know what is why, the lot of whys they are asking. This is how we have to behave. Because we all carry our experiences, our understandings, and our expertise with us. And these aspects of ourselves are incredibly valuable, but only at the right time. These assumptions may be misconceptions and stereotypes, and these can resist the amount of real empathy we can build toward the client. And assuming a beginner's mindset is really a way how we can put aside these biases so that the approach we have for the design challenge is with fresh eyes. Do you have any questions about that so far? No? No questions? Okay, let's go forward then. One way how you can build empathy and find out what the user needs is through user interviews. And I'm pretty sure you've been through a lot of interviews, and you are pretty familiar with the interviewing technique. When you're building the report, and at the very top of this line of this report, that's when you can actually ask those questions. It is very important, and you all know it because you've all experienced it, that you cannot just jump into these questions. You have to have the opening questions, and you have to build up this whole situation. For example, one way to do it is through story mode. If you want to, going back to this personal finance management topic that I came up with as an example just a couple of minutes ago, one of the first questions and opening questions would be to asking, well, talk about yourself, who you are, what you're working. And then if we are, as an introduction questions, do you use any kind of financial applications, or how do you keep track of your finances? And then the user is going to say a spreadsheet or an application. Then you could say, well, how frequently do you use that? And then he's going to say, well, daily. And then we are getting closer we are in rising action here. And then we can come up with the real question. Okay, tell me about the last time you used it. Please show me what you did. And that's when he will be able to tell you the real problems, well, he will not tell you the problems out loud. You will have to find them. He will tell you the story, how he's using it, and you can probe those questions and trying to find the problem statements. A bit easier if you use one of these. Well, tell a story. Of course, I showed you. I told you. Show me again. If you ask the user to show you in a personal finance management application, please show me how you integrate your how you upload your transaction history, how you integrate your bank accounts, for example. Or a very strong way is the 5 whys. That was actually, this technique was originally developed by Takichi Toyoda. And Toyota, he was from Toyota. And Toyota is coming out in the past is coming up with these fantastic techniques. Probably you know that total quality management is also coming from Toyota. Kanban is something also that is coming from that. So they are giving the world, the development community, the people who are developing products, great tools. And 5 Whys is one of these tools, because it was used actually during the evolution of Toyota's manufacturing methodologies. And it was a critical problem-solving tool. What happened is repeatedly asked 5 times about the nature of a problem, and if you ask these 5 whys, then the solution becomes very clear. So, for example, as you can see on this slide, the first question could be what gets in the way of being healthy, and then the answer is I don't have enough time. Then the question is why. And repeated whys will drive very deeply to the root cause of the problem, because after 3 whys, you can see that the answer is there are things that are in my face each day, and it is so easy to see those urgent things, and that's why the user doesn't have enough time for being healthy. So it's really not a health issue, but rather a time issue. See, it is even a different area of problems that he has. Okay, and this concludes the empathy phase. Do you have any questions so far? Because we will be moving into the define phase and why that is important. Okay. Just a probing question, or you're here? Yes.
Very much.
Yes, okay.
Yes.
All right. Let's continue. So, defining. What happened during the empathize phase is that you collected a lot of notes, your interview notes, you went out and see how other businesses do the same answer to that problem. You have a lot of information, a lot of findings. And define mode is really when you unpack and synthesize these findings, and you formulate needs and insights and scope a specific and meaningful challenge. It is a mode of focus rather than flaring. During the empathize mode, we were in a flaring mode. Now we are in a focusing mode. We are converging. And because to come up with an actionable problem statement, to come up with something that you can ideate and prototype on, you need to have your point of view, your problem statement. And this point of view or this problem statement is a guiding statement that focuses on specific users and insights and needs that you uncover during the empathize mode. Okay, how do you do that? How do you synthesize? Well, most of the times you have your notes, you write it on either a paper or in your computer, but because this is a collaborative exercise, design thinking is a collaborative exercise, you need to share those notes. So one way to do it is to put one sentence from your notes to one post-it, and then as you can see on this picture, just throw it on the wall. Okay, that's fine. You downloaded the post-it, but then how will you find meaning? How will you formulate from a lot of paper your problem statements. And there are 3 steps to that. As I said, you download your learnings, then you find themes, you kind of try to group these, and then when you group these and find one main topic for each of these groups, then you craft the so-called "how might we" questions. One way how you can group the findings is something that is called an empathy map. And what you do is you start with the goal section, and you can see that the goal section have a 1 to it, and then all the way you go to number 7. And this way you will collect what the goal of the user is, who he is, what he is doing, what are they seeing, saying, hearing, and how they feel and think, their pains and their gains. This way, you make sure that you tackle all the aspects of the user, the person, the people who you are designing for, and in each of these sections, you can combine those notes that are similar to each other. And from these findings, you can find, for example, with the voting, one insight that you see it's worthwhile to tackle in the next steps, in the next phases. Do you have any questions now? We didn't talk about a lot of this definition phase. It is because it goes very quickly. It is really a note gathering exercise, and most of the time it is self-explanatory. One person starts, and then you will all be able to share and join that what the first person shared. Do you have any questions on how to do this? Or are you already tired and want to go home? Or want to go have lunch? Or want to have a break?
Digesting it.
Yes? Listening?
Yes.
Okay. You don't have questions then. All right. Okay, let's move forward. So let's say that you went out, you gathered all the insights from the people who you are designing for. You synthesize that, and you have that one problem statement that you feel is strong enough to motivate the group of people who you are working with. It's something that the business needs, and it's actionable. Now it's time to find solutions to that problem. And here comes ideation. This is the phase, this is the mode during which you focus on idea generation. Again, this is a divergent mode, so the aim is to gather as many ideas as possible. We are going wide. Again, we are flaring rather than focusing. So the goal is to have as many ideas as possible, and all of the methodology, that is all of the tools that are are used during this mode, in this step, during this step, is to make sure that the people who are there, the people who are in the group, the people who are collaborating, can have as many ideas as possible. So the goal of the ideation is to explore a vast solution space, both a large quantity of ideas and also the diversity among those ideas. You remember last time we talked about diversity and why it's important, and why it is a good thing that a lot of different people with a lot of different background, maybe technology background, maybe from different parts of the company, come together during this process, this design thinking process, is because to have diversity among ideas, we need to be from diverse backgrounds. Okay, but the thing is that people think, and this is very important, that people think that they are not innovative, they are not creative, they don't have many ideas. And this is especially true when you invite people, for example, in a co-innovation session, when you invite people from the legal department or from accounting, because those people usually have a job that is really against creativity because of what they do, because of their everyday work. They think that they are not creative. They have this feeling that if an idea is necessary, it's not going to be them who is providing that idea. This is actually not true. It is kind of the same as how we think about drawing. Again, if I would ask 11 of you, or actually 10 of you, what do you think? Can you draw? How many people would say, yes, I can? Okay. How many of you would say, please say if you can draw?
Well, I can't draw, so.
You can draw, okay. One can't.
I can.
You can? You can?
I cannot.
You cannot, okay. 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 So who can draw? Is there anybody who can draw? Who would say that? Yes.
I would say I can, but you might not like it.
Okay, that's perfect. Yes, that's it. Yes, that's it. The truth is, actually, everybody can draw. I mean, everybody can draw. The thing what happened is that during kindergarten or in school somewhere, some teacher or somebody, the society said that the drawing that we are producing is not good. But who says? I mean, not good to what? Not good for what? And this is exactly true with creativity and with coming up with ideas. Everybody has ideas. Everybody can come up with a good idea. The question is, can we provide a space? Can we provide the feeling that these people and everybody can actually come up with good ideas? And one of the things that facilitates that is brainstorming. But there are some rules to brainstorming, and actually there are rules to any kind of ideation that you will be doing. And one of these rules is that you just don't judge. And I think this is a perfect timing of the picture. Anyway, you don't judge. You don't judge the idea. You don't judge, especially the people, because the wider the ideas, the better. Because those are the ideas that you can build on. If one of the person in the room says a wide idea, then just think of how you can steal that idea and well, it's not really stealing, of course. How you can steal that idea and build on that idea to come up with something else. Because every time the main thing that you're doing is that you need quantity. It's not the quality that counts in this point. We will have time to sort out those ideas. We need quantity, a lot of ideas, a lot of different ways how a solution can be solved. Have you ever heard of Crazy 8 technique or a design studio? Do you know what Crazy 8 is? Do you know what design studio is?
Crazy 8,
No.
is it about an idea a minute? So 8 ideas in 8 minutes.
Exactly, yes. Mm-hmm.
Just get quantity.
Yes. And what about design studio? Do you know what, have you ever been in a design studio? Do you know what a design studio is?
We've all been to a funky place that's called a design studio. But I don't
Okay,
know if there's
funky
another
place.
definition to that.
No, okay. Design studio is actually not a physical space. It's an activity which also incorporates Crazy 8. And yes, Crazy 8 is an activity where you gather 8 ideas in 8 minutes. What happens is that you hold the page, you fold it in half, then fold it in half again, and you fold it in half again, and you have 8 sections of an A4 or a letter size page if you would be using that. So you have eight parts of the page, and in 8 minutes you have to fill each section of this sheet. Okay, why is it difficult? The thing is that really in 8 minutes, what is comfortable to come up with is 6 ideas. And those 2 extra ideas, that is the most important thing in this Crazy 8 activity. Because after 6 ideas and feeling the time pressure, you will be able to, and the participants will be able to get over the blocks. Get over those blocks that I'm not creative. I don't have any ideas. I can't draw. And because time pressure is going to be more important to you, the participants and you will just forget that you have these mind-blocking thoughts, and those 2 ideas will be the most precious and the most of the time the most usable ideas that you can work with later on. A design studio, what a design studio does is really a small iteration of ideas. Because what happens is that you start out with a Crazy 8, then you share your ideas, people ask questions, the group asks questions, and maybe votes on the ideas. And then in a next session, which is a session alone with your thoughts, you have to come up with one solution out of your previous ideas or the ideas of others, or a completely new idea. So how it works, how Design Studio works, is that you start out with a Crazy 8, which is a brainstorming alone. Then you have a sharing session. Then you have a session alone again. And then after the session alone, when you draw just one solution, you share that solution again, and the team together comes up with one solution for the team. So you have, for example, 5 people in the team. You have 40 ideas with the Crazy 8. Then the second round, you have 1 idea for each person, and at the end of the design studio, you have 1 idea for the whole group, which built on the 40 different ideas, and then as going forward. Do you have any questions how a Crazy 8 session is handled? You get it?
Yeah, we get it.
Okay. You can give twists to these Crazy 8s because what you could do is, for example, tell the participants that, okay, imagine that you do not have any constraints. Imagine that you are from somebody from the Mars, and you are dropped here, and you have to find a solution for this problem, and you don't have any constraints. You don't know anything how anything works, so you don't have to take into account anything. How would you do it? Usually when the groups have enough time, what we do is we do a Crazy 8 session with the constraints that we really have. We do a Crazy 8 session without any constraints, and then we do a Crazy 8 session combining the two and finding a solution that would really be working in real life, but without those many constraints as we think there are, because constraints are usually in our head only. IDEO and some other companies have these very nice cards which help in the ideation by setting scenes. For example, saying that imagine that you want to find that your solution is a solution for a disabled. And then you can tweak and twist your Crazy 8 sessions with these cards, saying that, okay, you're not somebody from Mars, but you have to make sure that your idea is working for a disabled, or your idea is working for kids, or your idea is working in the social space. And these twists again are there to go for quantity and go for wide ideas. Any questions?
No, just to provoke some. This is Arun Babji here. Okay,
Yes.
Just to provoke some discussions.
Yeah.
On ideate phase. I mean, we do know that most of the groundbreaking ideas come from brilliant individuals and not from a group. And you might also have heard that okay, usually a collaborative effort in many cases is the ultimate triumph of mediocrity. Because all of this diversity helps only if people, the previous stages you described, people invest enough time in the previous stages to empathize,
yes,
then to actually strive to understand in a meaningfully deep manner. If you just bring in people if you bring in a group which has skipped these two phases, and that's a pretty hollow understanding. And bring in a lot of entitled people who think that, okay, look, I'm special.
yes.
Why? Because I'm special. Everybody is special.
Yeah.
So the word special has no meaning. You get nothing out of it.
Yes.
So typically, that is why most of these sessions, if you skip any of these phases, end up to be a very go to a pretty frustrating phase. You cannot skip the foundation. You cannot then you don't get any kind of useful output out of this. It all looks like a funky exercise, and as to most of the other ideation you talked about, right, it looks pretty cute when you have good looking people in a funky place playing around with colored paper, etc. Like a reality show, that looks really sexy. You like to see people design, but that's not how it works out really. So all that I wish to emphasize is that, guys, there are counterpoints to it. You should not you should not short circuit the process. Investing enough in that problem space is extremely crucial, because people are very impatient. They say, no, what do I get out of it, man? I've got half a day session out of this. I've got to finish some of. No, skip this. Let's move to the next one. You will not get anything out of such an attitude.
Arun, yes, thank you very much for your point. It's very important what you're saying. That without, of course, a design studio and a Crazy 8 is a fun exercise, and nice ideas will come out, and everybody is going to feel delighted and engaged and a lot of energy. But we are not going to get closer to solving the problem that we have at hand and we said that we want to solve. Yes, you have a very, very good point that without the foundations, as you put it, without knowing the problem, without knowing why it is a problem, we will not be able to find a solution. We will be able to find something, we will be building something, we will be prototyping something, and we will be testing something, but it is not going to be the right it. We will be making it right, but we will not be making the right it.
Yes. So, I mean, the right word I was looking out for was crowdsourcing. Crowdsourcing is the ultimate triumph of mediocrity in some cases. Okay. So you
Yes.
got to bring in the right people who also have taken pains to study related topics, interdisciplinary topics in the learning phase, to come and share the metaphors
Yes.
you used. Those are extremely important. Otherwise, people have fun, come up with pretty shallow solutions, and that's not really moving the needle in a meaningful manner.
Yes, you're right. You have to have the right people with the right mindset. And one other thing that I would like to add to that is that they have to accept that they are not designing for themselves. It is one of the very important foundations of design thinking is that you are not your user. You are not only designing for yourself. You might be in those people, among those people who this solution is going to be helpful, but you're not your main user. And this is one of the things that that those people who are engaged in these kind of exercises are really, it is really easy to forget.
Correct. And that is why you must have at least some people who have got some skin in the game.
Yes. Yes.
Right?
Yeah. Yes, you're right. Okay. We have 5 more minutes and 2 more steps, which are actually very quick steps, but I do not want to have us go over time. So let's have prototyping and testing for the next session, and during the next session, which hopefully is going to be the last one, we're going to finish with going through that exercise, what we call a crash course, when this all comes together, and you will see how those participants who you will be inviting during the Spark Day, what they're going to do, how they're going to do it, how can it be done in 1 hour, and why is it going to be a design thinking crash course for them. Okay?
Thank you.
Again, I am going to send you the slides, and I'm going to send you the recording so you can watch it later on if you would like to. And if you have any questions, just go ahead and just send me an email. Did you receive the last pack that I sent? Do you have the slides for the previous session? Did anybody? Yes, okay. Did anybody? Is there anybody who didn't get it? Okay, everybody got it. Then you can use my email address, or you can send it to Bakhtiar, your questions that you might have, and let's see next time. Let's see each other next time.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Shoshana. And
Thank
for
you.
Arun's benefit, can you also please send the last lessons, because I think we don't need to prepare for this part earlier than the others.
Yes.
And then organize the final session next. Okay?
Okay.
All right, thank you. Thanks.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.